Hello, everybody, and welcome to Extra Credits, the one show where we talk about games, and nothing but games, and sometimes video game butts. Who knows? Joining me, as always, is the Super Caster, the Super Nintendo Caster. It's so weird. We have the Gravedigger.
How everybody doing? Now you're playing with power, superpower.
So, yeah. How you doing, man?
Doing all right?
All right, so let's kind of just start this off like we always do. What you've been playing, playa?
Well, I've been trying to get into The Witcher 2. Trying to play that. Not so bad. Like I said, it's like I said. Like, I think on yesterday's stream, it's like you're playing a sequel to a game, so there's a lot of stuff that like I guess you're supposed to know. So I'm just trying to get trying to read between the lines, basically. Because the first one's on PC and I've never played the first one, so.
I mean, you could always watch a recap video on YouTube if need be.
Son of a bitch, I couldn't I?
You just realized that?
Yeah, I just realized, like, yeah, I could do that, couldn't I?
Well, like, literally, there's probably like an hour-long video that just recaps the events.
Or
Hey,
not,
Nick's-
you can get like a non-spoiler video where it's like the non-spoiler beginner's guide kind of thing. I could do that too, I guess.
All right,
Gamers
so buddy,
rise up.
So Nick Chan says, "Gamers rise up." Yes, and Johnny Ortiz says, "Hey guys." And Nick, if you want a linked invite, let us know. We'll drop it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, but as for me, before the stream, I was playing some Digimon Cyber Sleuth on my Steam Deck. That was pretty cool. Also been doing stuff on my Switch Lite. Just enjoying what we have before it goes away. Speaking of goes away, let's get in some headlines, shall we?
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, Casus Paria.
All right, so this is Headline Hysteria. We're talking about the news that's important, just not important enough for a whole episode. Caster brought this to my attention, so you, sir, have the floor.
Okay, according to I think it's PC Gamer. Had this article today where I just read the headline. I didn't read the whole article, but so sue me. But anyways, they were saying that Nintendo, what they're going to do with the Switch 2 is that if I assume with the Switch also is they're going to implement a thing where if they detect any kind of piracy or if they detect any kind of like modding on the system, it's basically they're going to brick your system.
So here's the thing. I hope they do that in the US because that is going to open up a whole can of worms.
Yes.
Because in the EU, that's like straight up illegal. That's why if you look at the how the wording is for the European announcement, it's actually slightly different. But also, it has been ruled that it is legal to mod your system.
Yeah, it is. Nintendo, see, that's the thing is Nintendo has always been very, very protective of their brand, very protective of this, as they should. But they do remember famously they got into it with Game Genie back in the day and lost hard, because they said
this is why I'm really afraid for the Switch 2 because the whole digital feature they could just wipe out your whole library. I'm not as much worried about it with Valve. As long as Gabe is alive, my library is safe. They're not going to do anything stupid. But Nintendo, honestly, with Nintendo entering its villain arc like this, I'm kind of scared. I'm really I'm not really wanting to invest large amounts of money into a library.
Yeah, and I really don't I've always been very iffy about digital only. I do see the advantages of having digital games. I understand sometimes it's easier to get. Sometimes you don't care. That's fine. Users' preference is number one to me. If you like having digital stuff, that's fine. But for me,
Game,
I've always
here
been
at
very
Extra
iffy
Credits,
about it.
Here at Extra Credits, we advocate for you to game however you want.
Pretty much, yeah. And for me, it's extra iffy to have only digital because that's where they can start really screwing with you, you know.
Yeah.
Because
And,
at that point, you don't really own the game; you own the license to the game. The only way I could see you owning the digital copy is if it was some kind of like
Like
cryptocurrency or something. Yeah,
or specifically DRM free. Like I like honestly, I'm fully comfortable with GOG because even if they do decide to get screwy, there is plenty of DRM free versions that they can't touch.
yeah. So, but like, yeah, but for right now, the way it is, you know, if they want to say, hey, we're going to change something in the game or we're going to take away certain content that you bought, they can. They can do it. It's all in the license agreement, and you agreed to it. So legally, you can't do nothing. That's why, and same thing with not just video games, but with all physical media, whether it's movies or music or whatever, having it all digital, it's very convenient. I understand that. That's the tempting part about it. It's just the convenience of it. I understand.
We've seen it with digital music and video, where like on Spotify, like an album comes out, and then like a few weeks later, they're like change the mix or something. Or
Yeah.
Marvel has gone back, like I think in Ms. Marvel, originally the Statue of Liberty was green, and then they realized, oh wait, this takes place in a like around the same time as No Way Home. The Statue of Liberty should be orange, so they went back and like redid that, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's like, and they did that, and also, nefariously they did that with Disney did that with Back to the Future, where they had the TV edit cut on Disney Plus. So all the anything that was deemed not suitable for TV was on that cut.
Or another one. This is slightly political, but I think it bears it from a preservation standpoint. It bears being said. Home Alone 2, like that 30-second cameo of Donald Trump in there. They
that's so silly.
Like everything, and the thing is, the only way to have that is like DVDs or like there's sometimes episodes that get banned from a show that's not on streaming. Like for example, the Michael Jackson episode of The Simpsons. I think the only way to see that one is I think they released it on the DVDs, but no way.
Exactly. And there's all kinds of things like that too. Like this is a little bit esoteric, but there was a this is not anything that has to do with anything like nefarious on anybody's part. This just happens to do with just the legality of it. So apparently Mystery Science Theater, of course, how they can do what they can do with movies and stuff is usually they either pick movies that have no copyright or they're in the public domain, so there's nothing they can worry about, or they have a very, very, very cheap fee to pay. Well, apparently there's a movie called The Final Sacrifice, and they can't legally play it anymore on because on YouTube they have a 24-hour stream where they just play Mystery Science Theater movies like in a loop. So if you want to have that, you just go to their YouTube channel, and they have like a 24-hour loop where it's just constant streaming of their movies. But they can't play a movie called The Final Sacrifice. It's a Canadian film from the early 90s. It's one of my favorite episodes. It's hilarious, but the problem is there was some kind of legal issue where they could not no longer license it or whatever. Some legal thing popped up, so they could no longer do that. So the only way to watch that episode, now it's a lost episode. So the only way to watch it is if you have it on, say, like a collection edition where you have it like on a DVD, or if you just pirate it, basically. There is somebody on YouTube right now. I
want to push back. I think the word lost is a bit like why, because if you can have it on a DVD, it's not actually lost.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like you can't stream it. Basically, you can't find it online legally. You can't find it online, so you're gonna have to dig through like go on eBay and look for like the certain collection if you really want to go that far for that certain movie. But what I'm just saying is that's another example of something that is normally available digitally, but no longer can do it because of the legality of it. So if you have the physical thing, also another good example, if I want to get into it real quick, before we move on, the original theatrical cut of Star Wars, very hard to find because George Lucas has done everything he can.
Wait, you want me to find it? Here, let me go search for it. I'll be right back. You say it's so hard to find, right? You say it is so hard to find the original cut of Star Wars. It is so hard. Oh, wait, that was less than 30 seconds. Oh, wait, here's my VHS copy of the original cut.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, though. But what is it?
VHS. It's so hard to find. I literally had to walk 5 steps. Sorry.
I know, but what I'm saying is you have to go through older media to get it, though. You can't just, for instance, you can't go on Disney Plus and watch it. You got to watch the new ones. If you go
shout out to Harmy's The Specialized Edition.
Yeah, if you go to like you go to like Walmart or Best Buy and you go look for the DVDs, they're going to be the special edition ones. So that's what I'm saying is they've kind of swept that under the rug where like, yeah, you have to go to like Laserdisc and VHS and early DVDs to get the actual theatrical cut.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a divide we're having here. Where like there's people have 2 different approaches to media. There is whatever is officially available. Like, the only way to watch Star Wars is VHS or and Laserdisc. And me, it's like, I don't mind sailing the high seas. I can watch the original cut in 4K and it's freaking beautiful. It's really 2 different approaches, and I'm not saying either one is wrong or correct. I'm kind of doing a cop out here, but
I'm just saying like approaches. Well, I'm just saying like if you're just going through the legal ways. I mean, yeah, because piracy is always going to be the option B. But I'm just saying if you're wanting to do it legally and you want to do it, that way, those are the only ways you're going to be able to do it legally.
Yeah.
But anybody can just pop up their computer and just ripping it right now.
Or just like, somebody did a fan edit where they put it in HD and it looks amazing. I'll download that or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's the DVDs they released in the 2000s, but those are just a Laserdisc transfer. They're not really that good.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with extra credits, but like I got to give a shout out to this. Did you see that apparently a theater is going to show the Schumacher cut?
Really?
Of Batman Forever.
Oh, wow.
So, we might be getting the Schumacher cut widely released here soon. This has nothing to do with extra credits, but we're kind of on like a lost media topic, and I just wanted to bring it up. I have long been advocating for the Schumacher cut to be released, and I will buy that when it comes out.
Okay. So this is Batman Forever, right?
Yes. The Schumacher cut, which we're still some of like the more darker scenes, like we've seen.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, because that was the part where Batman was getting more goofy. The movie Batman.
Yeah. There's the whole thing
because the whole Burton ones were a little bit more dark,
Yeah, a big part of it is Warner Brothers made a deal with McDonald's for Batman Returns, and lo and behold, you have little Timmy. He's 6 years old. He goes to see Batman Returns to see the Penguin puke up black bile.
Or bite someone's nose.
Or just literally, there's a lot of stuff. I love Batman Returns. But let's get into something a little bit more kid-friendly here. Yeah, let's talk about the Super Nintendo.
What we're here to talk about, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. But
never had one as a kid.
I don't think I had one, but I had a lot of friends that had one.
Yeah, I had friends here and there who had one, but yeah, I've never personally. A long time ago, yeah, a long time ago.
The galaxy far, far away.
hmm
So I wrote down a list of like topics to cover, so everyone will kind of get meandered. So the first one on the list is why we love the SNES or Super Nintendo, whatever what you want to call it. Caster, go first.
Because it is a next logical step in the evolution of the NES. A lot more powerful machine, a lot better graphics, colors, everything. Basically, everything you love about the NES is just now, multiplied by by like infinity. I mean, it's awesome.
It's gone
Um,
super.
It's gone super, yeah. Like the advertisement said, now you're playing with superpower. The early game, even the early pack-in games were amazing. Like Super Mario, Super Mario World is just awesome. And they got like the Legend of Zelda. I mean, it's just there's so many great games, and and it's usually when people are emulating like retro graphics, it's usually the Super. I've noticed it's the Super Nintendo. They're more emulating more.
Yeah, and it's usually like mid to late Super Nintendo because like
Yeah.
honestly, some of those like late Super Nintendo games, like Tales of Fantasia,
Mhm.
like oh my god, they put modern games to shame. And that
Yeah.
sorry, finish what you're saying first, and I'll go.
Well, I was gonna say because I was gonna like plug Nix's game here because like the game that Nix Chan is making, her game looks a lot like old school like Final Fantasy, the Tales of Mana or Legend of Mana kind of game. Chrono Trigger. It definitely has that very good, very awesome retro vibe to it. And that's what I mean when people are making games like that have that retro feel. It's the Super Nintendo. You can definitely tell that they're going for. Because the Sega Genesis just had a different feel to it completely.
Mhm.
Because the Sega Genesis went for that, balls to the wall, crazy high octane, uh, just this is the most badass thing alive, you know. And they tried to play Nintendo as like the old man system, but it's really not, But that was the marketing, like I like when they show like the two cars racing, and they got a Sega Genesis and Nintendo in the back, and the Sega Genesis is a Formula One F1 racer, and the Super Nintendo is just this jalopy that can't get started.
I mean, Genesis does what Nintendo.
Nintendo, yeah. And and the thing is, like, I'm a Sega fanboy. I love the Sega Genesis. It's my favorite of the two consoles. And that's mostly just because I grew up with the Sega Genesis.
Yeah, same. I probably like, of the two, I would like it. Like, I mean, let's just put it this way: of the two consoles, which one of the two do I currently own? Sega Genesis.
Yeah. So like I have the complete Tower Power. I have the CD and the 32X add-on to it and everything. And
do you have a Game Shark? And then do you have Sonic and Knuckles?
I do not. I need to, but I don't have those two.
You don't have the
complete
Tower Power.
Yeah, but yeah, like they're both great machines. Definitely, you can tell like the Super Nintendo. If you look at the specs, though, the Super Nintendo it does outperform the Sega Genesis in almost every way.
Except for one,
which is blast
processing.
Blast processing.
You have to explain the Genesis processor. I think it's like double the clock speed, or like a couple megahertz. Like I think I don't quote me on this, but I believe the Super Nintendo is like 4 megahertz, and like the Genesis is like 7.5 megahertz or something.
I think it's like the Genesis can have more colors on the screen at a time. I believe that's what it is.
Super Nintendo can have more colors.
But like then you got there was a lot of things where like Super Nintendo also had games with special chips in it to give them different special effects.
Genesis did try that with Virtua Racing, but it was like way too expensive. I think they chose like the add-on route.
Yeah, they tried to do that. Yeah, it was much better to do it with the 32X, but of course, there's the famous Mode 7 that's in the Super Nintendo.
Which for those who don't know, like I'm sure people have said like Mode 7 graphics. Basically, Nintendo had different graphics modes, and Mode 7 was a background sprite scaling. So basically, it allowed you to kind of twist it and like. So basically, what they discovered is you could make a pseudo 3D kind of thing, where it's like you just twist the background layer and you just have these sprites in the forefront and they just turn.
Yeah, and that worked very well with games like Star Fox, where it gave that pseudo 3D effect.
Oh, Star Fox was like actually 3D.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah, that was like
yeah, because that had the Super Effects chip, which we'll get to a lot of that stuff later. But just so for me, I want to say I consider the Super Nintendo to be the ultimate 2D system. And by that, what I mean is like everything about Super Nintendo. The controller is like the perfect 2D controller. Like it feels amazing. It has just enough buttons for like any 2D game you could think of, and just getting on the graphics. Super Nintendo graphics still hold up today. Like if you look at the sprite work on those games, they like if you put it up against modern sprite work, it's like 1-1. If not, the Super Nintendo actually is like a little bit better because you had like masters of the craft working on these sprites as in terms of like indies.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the graphics and like the sounds are amazing. But also like I really enjoyed how the Super Nintendo used a sample base for its music, to where the music it holds up. Honestly, like Super Nintendo music still sounds really good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
Like yeah, I could listen to like Zelda music on the NES and be like, yeah, it sounds good, blah blah blah. But like Super Nintendo, it's like objectively sounds really good.
Oh yeah. And that's one area where I think like the Super Nintendo shines is just it's like especially with over the NES, like the jump and what you could do with music was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes things you would like, especially in Legend of Zelda, like it's all MIDI, but you feel like at certain times there's like a whole orchestra playing. You can actually hear different instruments. Your different woodwinds and your strings and your percussion instruments, stuff like that. You can actually pick those out within the MIDI, which is awesome.
All right,
but yeah,
I'm gonna tempt fate. I am gonna tempt fate here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I am just gonna play a very short snippet of this. Yes, I am tempting fate. And by the way, if there's like a jump cut in the replay, it's because I had to cut it out due to copyright. All right. That's enough. Right.
Yeah, like you can pick out different instruments and everything. It's just amazing, But yeah, it's just the sound quality is absolutely just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing that I like over this, something I prefer over the Super Nintendo, or something about the Super Nintendo I prefer over the Sega Genesis, is that most Sega Genesis games didn't have any kind of saving feature. Very rarely did they have one. But for Super Nintendo, a lot of the games they did. They had either some kind of password system, or they had you had like just a straight up battery in your cartridge where you can save. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, I've got like a next example thing I'm trying to like.
Yeah.
All right, so this is from Tales of Fantasia. This is, to be fair, it's a late Super Nintendo game. So, but yeah, look at these. Like, look at how good that sprite work is,
Oh yeah.
and like the music. I was able to play a little bit more of it because it's not a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get it, like, honestly, there's just so many iconic games on the Super Nintendo, which does kind of segue into our next topic here. I did not plan that. Favorite Super Nintendo games. So for me, just kind of naming some off the top of my head: Super Metroid, Mario World, A Link to the Past, F-Zero. Like Star Fox, it's just so many great games. Caster, what about you?
I'd say probably one that I sunk a lot of time into is Super Castlevania. I love Castlevania 4. You know, it's just so fun, and the music is so great. And then of course I like, I love all the popular first party games, with Super Mario World, Mario Kart, and Super Metroid and Donkey Kong Country. But then of course, I would say probably the Super Nintendo was where the US was really got its first real big like mainstream RPG fix. There have always been RPGs in gaming, even back on early computer PC games. There was RPGs on the NES. There's RPGs on the as little as there's some on the Sega Genesis, but
there's some on the Master System.
Yeah, there's some on that, but
there's some RPG-esque games even on the 2600. Really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I said, there's always been RPGs, but I think this is the first time where the public got a wider mainstream selection. We had, you had because Square Enix, again leading that charge on many different consoles. You had you had the Final Fantasy 2 and 3, which were actually 4 and 6 in Japan. For that old, if you don't know about that, go look that up because I'm not explaining it.
I can explain it real quick. So, Final Fantasies 2 and 3 never came out in America, but they're on the NES. But we only got Final Fantasy 1 here in the States. So when it came time for Final Fantasy 4 to come out in America, in order to avoid the stupid American, Miyamoto's French for some reason. Saguchi's French. Stupid Americans. They wouldn't know what to do to them. I don't know why French. I'm just doing it for smugness, I guess. I named it 2 because those stupid Americans wouldn't know what to hit them.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, to avoid confusion of where hell 2 and 3 was at, they were like, we'll just make this 2 and 3. But 5 never got released over here either, so they just skipped it and made it 3.
Oh,
so
but
it's
we got
actually
Final
4 and
Fantasy
3.
Mystic Quest.
Yeah, but they got that, and then we got the Legend of Mana, things like that.
Secret of Mana.
I'm sorry, Secret Mana, Legend of Mana. Legend of Mana's on PlayStation.
We didn't get Trials of Mana. That was the sequel to Secret. We didn't get that one, but it did come on the Super Nintendo. And then Enix was doing really well because they released Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, and we got stuff like Robotrek, which if you've never played Robotrek, it's kind of it's very Pokemon-esque actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's other games that we didn't get, like Terranigma, which came out in the UK, but didn't come out here. That was the third part of the Soul Blazer, Illusion Gaia, Terranigma. Lots of there's a lot of RPGs that did come out in America here. A lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and such great stories and adventures that just captivated a lot of people for generations. I mean, because people still talk about Final Fantasy VI, people still talk about Chrono Trigger. I mean, they're legendary games that came out. Almost. Actually, I think Chrono Trigger, yeah, it did come out 30 years ago. I think it came out in '95. So yeah, so like 30 years ago, people still talking about these legendary games.
We need to do a 30th special for Chrono Trigger. We need to do that sometime this year.
Yeah. But they have these great RPGs that came out. We have all these great action games, arcade games that came out. But I think
What are you laughing?
I just to laugh at the train back there.
Oh my god! I got it. I had the window open. All right,
I know,
and
it's just funny.
I live probably like half mile, 3/4 of a mile from a train track, so that's why you can hear it. Oh
yeah.
God. See, this is why, like in the winter, you never hear stuff because like this is shut. But like in the spring and the summer, I just I just want a nice reason to cool it down. I can't turn the fan on because then you hear it.
Yeah.
So it's just stupid. It's fun.
Give me 1 second. I gotta.
Whoa. Okay. All right. So we don't know when Cassie will be back, so I'll just kind of continue talking. So yeah. Like I said, a lot of the Super Nintendo games still hold like Super Metroid is honestly so perfect. I don't really see how you could remake it. Just like release it so it's have it be in a better resolution, maybe widescreen. Like the sprites look amazing, the sound is amazing, the gameplay is perfect. Like literally the only thing you would need to modernize Super Metroid is widescreen and have it be capable of rendering in 4K. That's really all you need to do.
Oh, for Super Metroid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's an amazing looking game. Even today, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's like a very one of the few perfect games.
Yeah.
Like say even Link to the Past, I have some issues with. Like I think the save states in the Super Nintendo version are a little stingy, which is why I actually prefer playing it on the GBA, because the GBA gives the option of starting from your last save, your last house or last thing you entered, versus kind of thing. Yeah, it's very tedious. We're I'm climbing up Death Mountain, I died. Oh, I got to start from that guy from the cave or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, Super Metroid is a 10 out of 10 game. Link to the Past is a 9 out of 10, maybe 9.5. Super Mario World, another great game. The graphics are just perfect. Do not need to touch those graphics.
Yeah, it's absolutely There's it's amazing game. Well, controls are well good, are very good.
Are so tight. They're
very tight. I mean, and then of course you have some good crossover games multi-platform games that did pretty well on both systems. But this is something where I think I kind of miss a little bit, is where you would have a game for Super Nintendo and a game for Sega Genesis, and the only thing that's similar is the title, because they're completely two different games.
Yeah, that's actually a very perfect segue. Thank you, sir. To our next topic. This is also another one of those things where it's I miss when every game console kind of had their own unique library and their own unique feel.
Yeah.
For example, we're going to compare the Super Nintendo to the Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis primarily was action games, arcade games.
Yeah.
It did have RPGs, and actually some damn good ones. Same thing with Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo had some good action games, some good racing games, but like I think it's the perfect encapsulation of it is Aladdin. Because like Aladdin on the Super Nintendo is a platformer. The sprite work is beautiful. But then you have Aladdin on the Genesis, which is an action. It's an action platformer. You kill things.
Yeah. And it's like, and that's the thing is like they are very two different, like they're similar in what they're doing is they're bringing games in the house, but two different ways of doing it. So what I mean by that is, okay, so Nintendo, because of the famous crash in the 80s, Nintendo came and they wanted to be an entertainment center. And that's what they market themselves as. Is this was a fan?
I thought they marketed themselves as a toy.
Yeah, they didn't want to market themselves as a video game console because that's what people were sick of because they said, oh, the whole market crashed, so people were weary of that. So they marketed themselves as the Nintendo Entertainment System. This was an appliance. This was something that and that's why they made the Nintendo feel like a VCR where you push the game down, even though it's not needed at all.
In fact, it actually harmed things. And
that's actually a design flaw.
The cartridges themselves were made to kind of look almost like VHS tapes. Where if you ever open up an NES cart, it takes up like maybe half of the space of the cart.
Oh yeah. It's just mostly empty plastic inside of there. The actual board is very, very tiny. And that's
if you look at Famicom carts, they're very small.
Yeah, and then that's actually like when you look at like Super Nintendo and Genesis carts, that's exactly how big the boards are, just as big as the cartridge itself. That's how big the Nintendo carts are, actually. But anyways, so what I'm saying is that Nintendo is marketing itself as the entertainment center. And that's what they continued with the Super Nintendo. This is an entertainment center. This is a family machine. This is for fun for the whole family. We got all kinds of different things for people. We've got action. We've got platformers. We've got RPGs. We've got Mario Paint. We've got Mario, make music with Mario Paint. We got all kinds of things we want to do, right? And then you have the Genesis. The Genesis was we're bringing the arcade home. So we're trying to make close to the arcade as possible. And with that, so that was their whole. That's why, as we said before, Sega Genesis had more, actiony games. They didn't really have games that you saved a lot on because their whole thing was we're bringing arcade. Like their mission statement was we're bringing the arcade back to you home. We're trying to do it as close as possible, and I guess that's why they kept obsessing with Mortal Kombat. Because they re-released Mortal Kombat 2 several times. They released it for the Genesis, they released it for the Sega CD, and then they released it again for the 32X.
Well, they just kind of accidentally hit on a home run there with that thing because think about the Sega Genesis. The Sega was the cool kid's console. Like, if you were the cool kid, you had a Sega. Because Sega was more of like the teenager adult console. Like in the games they had, like even the presentation, the system. Like I have a Super Nintendo here. You got like a gray box with purple things. It looks very friendly. Then you got a Sega Genesis. It's black. The cartridges are black. It's sleek. It's refined. It's modern.
Yeah, and there's a lot of darker games on it too, like like Slaughterhouse and Mortal Kombat with the blood.
Castlevania Bloodlines.
Yeah, Bloodlines. There's more violence. I would say there's more violent games, even though Super Nintendo does have them. I would say per capita, Sega Genesis has more adult, dark games on it than
Nintendo did ease up on some of their censorship after they kind of had an embarrassment with Mortal Kombat, which is kind of a thing I wanted to talk about here. Sorry, it's kind of taken off. So basically one of the things that like Nintendo is known for, and they're kind of still known for today, is the tight grip they have on their games. And like they were known in the past for their censorship. And this really reared its head with the first Mortal Kombat. So, all right.
Gray blood.
Sweat.
Yeah, sweat. Yeah, because that's what it is. It's sweat. Yeah.
So yeah, like you couldn't act, but on the Genesis, they hid it behind a code. There was like a blood code to help turn on the code. But the thing is, the Super Nintendo version is kind of better actually in all other regards. Like better music, it kind of plays better. Graphically, it looks a little bit better. But because the Mortal Kombat version had blood, which if you're buying Mortal Kombat, that's what you want.
That's what you bought it for. Yeah.
The Mortal Kombat on the Genesis sold significantly more than the Super Nintendo version. And it's like after that, Nintendo kind of eased up a little bit. Like especially when you got to Mortal Kombat 2, the Super Nintendo had blood galore.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, there's a complete Mortal Kombat 1 and Mortal Kombat 2 on the Super Nintendo. There's a completely different difference in it, completely different games. Whereas like on the Genesis, not so much. They're still pretty gory games. But yeah, they did ease up on it on some things. And like you said, it was more towards the mid-late is when they started easing up a lot of the stuff. But yeah, again, it was like I said before, that's what the mission statement was. Whereas, again, Sega Genesis, this is a man's console. This is a arcade, perfect, dark, gory. This is not something you need to be afraid to play. Kind of thing. Whereas the Super Nintendo, it's kid friendly, it's family friendly.
This ain't your little brother's console.
Yeah, this ain't your little brother's consoles where the Super Nintendo is supposed to be the family friendly, family console. Everybody can enjoy it because
the Super Nintendo is a console you play at 4:30 waiting for dinner. The Sega Genesis is a console you play after you have sex with your girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. And then but yeah, like yeah, that's the game that you play after everyone's gone to bed. You turn you turn the sound down low and start playing. You
play. You have some bourbon in one cup holder, a pack of Marlboros and a light. And you play Desert Strike. God.
Yeah, Desert Strike. You play Mutant League football. Watch people's heads getting ripped off.
You play Mech Warrior. You play the superior version of Shadowrun.
Yeah. But yeah, but that's the thing. Is like again, and it's not that we're knocking it that the Super Nintendo was supposed to be the family friendly console, because it did have a lot of great games on it, like just amazing games.
And the Genesis also had family friendly games.
Oh, they did too. Yeah.
Literally, Sonic the Hedgehog is like it beat Nintendo at its own game kind of thing. Like even the people at Nintendo admit it's like, yeah, Sonic. It's like I think like they had like Howard, one of the guys from Nintendo says, yeah, Sonic's actually a really good game.
Yeah, I mean it was that was the whole thing. It was fast and better than Nintendo. Like Mario's just an old plumber. You're playing as an old plumber, whereas like Sonic, he's fast. He got shades. Yeah, he's cool. He's extreme.
This is quickly turning into a Sega Genesis episode.
I know it, but that was the thing about
we're Sega Genesis fanboys. We can't help it.
But but that was the thing. But like I said, there was nothing wrong with the Super Nintendo. And the thing is, yes, I was on that Sega Genesis bandwagon, and I was talking shit about Super Nintendo on the playground. But in my old age, I have both systems. I play both systems. I love both systems. They're both great. And that's the thing is like, you kind of chill out with the console wars as you get older and realize that, both systems are good.
I mean, unless you're on Twitter and you want to have fun. In that case, it's like it's the '90s again, baby.
Yeah, I know. There's people who just still like for some reason have just this hatred for like one console or the other, and I'm like, dude, it's 2025. Calm down, dude.
I'll have fun
Like,
with it. I'll like poke fun, like,
yeah.
oh, such goodness. Oh, look at my console. Like, if we're having fun with it, fine. But
Yeah.
come on, guys. These consoles came out 30 years ago.
Yeah.
There are people who were born after the consoles were done who have kids now.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's give it a rest, okay?
Yeah, let's just give it a rest. Yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, I have both. I collect for both. I love both. You know, they're both amazing consoles. But yeah, the Super Nintendo. Yeah, and also that we have you know, every once in a while, Sega will shoot itself in the foot. But what's amazing is Nintendo will shoot themselves in the foot also. Not as often, but when they do, they make their own competitor.
yeah, it's amazing like how they've done that multiple times.
And they did that painlessly with the Sony PlayStation.
Yep. And then oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Like, I think didn't they do that like again at another point? I can't remember. Oh gosh. But the funny thing is, like Atari kind of did it to Nintendo because like Nintendo was supposed to be the distributor of the 2600. No. Did you know there is an alternate universe where they came out with the Atari Entertainment System?
Really?
Atari was this close to distributing the Famicom here in the U.S.
Really, under Atari's name?
Yes. That was like that deal was so close to being signed.
And, you know, and that's kind of a weird thing because other countries have done that before, like, especially like in South Korea, there was this because of World War II, South Korea had like a ban on Japanese goods, so a lot of those consoles didn't come over to Korea directly, so they had to like change them. So you would have like instead of the Super Nintendo, it would be like Magnavox, Play, the Game Center, something generic like that. It would be labeled under a different company, but so that way, it gets around the embargo that South Korea had. So that's kind of like what it would have been like over here, where it would be just a completely different company taking the name over it. Because I think in Canada, I think Mattel did that a lot with some games. There's some games where it's like, I think there's like a Canadian version of like the Legend of Zelda that has like the Mattel symbol on it for some reason. Yeah, they were like licensed under that for some reason. I don't know.
Jaleco took over a lot of the Sega stuff in like the late '90s, or like you can find a Jaleco branded Game Gear.
Yeah. Majesco, you mean?
Majesco, sorry.
Yeah, Majesco, yeah. Sales Incorporated, yeah. Yeah, that's what they did. They famously relicensed the Sega Genesis and the Game Gear under their brand, under their name. So it's kind of crazy. So yeah, they have the Atari. Basically, it wouldn't be the NES, it'd be the AES.
Oh, Neo Geo is very happy they didn't go that route.
Yeah. I wonder how that timeline would have been. Yeah. I really wonder how that would have been.
Because
well, here's the thing, and that thought experiment. Let's say Atari, because they have the name, Atari has more say of what goes on over here in America, and therefore a lot of the stuff that Nintendo was really picky about doesn't get doesn't become an issue like with the Game Gear, or not the Game Gear, but the Game Genie per se. Or what was the I forget, it was a Tengen. Yeah, Tengen. Tengen was a big thorn in Nintendo's side for a while. For those
That
who
was
don't know,
Atari. That was Atari.
it was Atari. Okay, yeah, but yeah, there was a game company called Tengen that made games for the Nintendo, and they were like in these weird black carts. They didn't look like actual Nintendo games, but they played on the NES. And the thing was, they weren't officially recognized by Nintendo. They didn't have, they weren't officially licensed. They didn't have this Nintendo seal of quality on them, and so Nintendo took them to court. And I think the court said like Nintendo couldn't do that.
Yeah, I just want to introduce another wrinkle to this. So I just did some quick Googling, and this almost deal happened in 1983. Thing is, at the time, Atari was owned by Warner Brothers. They didn't sell Atari till summer of '84. So if this deal didn't go through, you could potentially argue Warner Brothers might not have would have never sold Atari. So like they could still be owning Atari to this day potentially. And that also has a knock-on effect because Jack Tramiel of Commodore bought Atari, and then that's how we got the Atari ST line, and eventually the Jaguar. Like that whole line of stuff just includes.
Interesting.
I think we still might have gotten the Game Boy because that was Nintendo of Japan.
Yeah.
So I think like the Atari Game Boy.
Yeah, it would have been the Atari Game Boy. Yeah. Everything branded Nintendo would have been Atari. So
well, the other thing is, I think the Super Nintendo would have come out because the Super Nintendo is really a result of the Sega Genesis, because Nintendo was more than happy to keep the NES going. It wasn't until the Genesis came out that kind of forced their hand to develop the Super Nintendo.
Which really kind of goes back to what I was saying yesterday about, competition is better for the consumer, because if that didn't happen, we wouldn't have the Super Nintendo, and we can all agree that was actually good for the consumer as a brand new console. It made, basically it made these game companies that would just been happy shilling out the same crap for decades and not worrying about innovation. It actually, forced their hand to actually, make better stuff so they could sell it to you.
Like for example, look at the iPhone. It's barely changed in like the last 10 years.
There's not really been that much competition between the two. They pretty much do the same thing.
Yeah, like you see, but the thing is, if you look at the Android space, they're constantly like looking for things to innovate on, especially as the hit. But that's a whole separate topic. But yeah, you see this throughout the history. Like, since Sony comes on and kind of eats Nintendo's lunch, then that kind of forces the GameCube, and then the Xbox comes along, and Nintendo's like, all right, we're gonna stop competing. They release the Wii. Nintendo, as much as people don't like to admit it, Nintendo does respond to but they're also very stubborn.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the Super Nintendo is kind of from like a long lost era where Nintendo was still trying to be at the forefront of technology, be at the forefront of gaming innovation. Gameplay wise, Nintendo is still pushing things forward. I actually think more so than the other three, but it's more just because the other two are just kind of asleep at the wheel. We don't need the 35th Uncharted clone this year.
And that's the thing. Is like Nintendo almost seems to be like, I'm going to do my own thing from now on. And I'm going to be, I guess they're kind of happy being that third console in the race.
They honestly honestly they hit that sweet spot. I think the Switch is probably Nintendo's best system, because they hit that sweet spot so hard. It was the perfect second console. You had a PC and a Switch. You had an Xbox and a Switch. You had a PlayStation and a Switch. It was always other console, and then you had the Switch. And a lot of times, people double dip. Like, they're re-releasing a game that I played 3 years ago. I'll re-buy it because now it's portable.
Yeah. I'm gonna buy Skyrim on the Switch
for the 5th time.
Yeah. For the 45th time, and then now about that now it's going to be Oblivion remasters. Oh, I got the Oblivion remaster on the Switch.
Oh,
I got the Oblivion remaster on the Ouya.
Oh my god, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. The thing about the Ouya it was a good idea at the time. They just totally mismanaged.
Oh yeah, that was just a complete mess up. But
like, it was a good idea. It was a good idea. I mean, even now, nowadays, I don't know. Like, I mean, it ran on Android. Basically, the thing of the Ouya, I think it's basically been taken over by the Chinese handhelds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I by the way, don't be surprised if I actually buy you one at some point.
So, what's another topic we need to segue into here?
All right. So, let's start talking about the marquee Mario. Like, I think Mario was so on point this kind of generation. Obviously, Mario World, not only one of the best Super Mario games, like objectively one of the best games ever. Then you had Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, completely different game, but like it's a sequel. They had Mario World, Mario RPG. Like, I'm just going to go and say it. I don't think there's a bad Mario game on the system.
No, not at all.
Yeah, like Mario Kart is just such a innovation, honestly.
Yeah, then you had like things like Mario Paint. But I know, but if you ever go on like YouTube, look up like because Mario Paint had a
Fly Swatter.
Well, I'm saying it had where you can make music on it, and some of the music that people have been able to reproduce on Mario Paint is actually pretty freaking cool. Like, you could definitely recognize what song they're trying to play.
Right, sorry, I'm like looking up some stuff on Mario Paint. Oh gosh. Okay. I can probably only play a little bit of this, but you'll see. I'm blue, da da dee. Like, that actually sounds really good too.
That actually sounds really good. So that means you could have had that song in a game and it would be that recognizable. Like, it almost sounds like, it's a MIDI version, obviously, but like how close it sounds to the original is amazing. So imagine having, modern licensed game music into games like that. That'd be great. And that also was good for like again for licensed games, like movie games and stuff, where they could actually have like the theme songs and stuff. It would actually sound like what it's supposed to be, instead of like something choppy.
All right. I got one more for you. This one doesn't sound as good, but. Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that one
yeah.
doesn't sound as good.
Yeah, but there's some really talented people out there who've made some really awesome Mario Paint games. But yeah, that just goes to show you like the sound quality of what the Super Nintendo is capable of, and when pushed, when people push it to what it can do, it's really awesome. But yeah, like the Mario. I'd say Mario is like one of the perfect mascots out there because he's easily recognizable by everybody. He's basically the Mickey Mouse of Nintendo.
I mean, the funny thing is, during this time, he was more recognizable than Mickey Mouse. Like they actually did studies and proven, he was actually more recognizable.
More recognizable than Mickey Mouse, he had a ton of games on the he was in a handful of games on the the NES. You had like the Mario trilogy, then you had like Dr. Mario, but then like Super Nintendo is where you started getting like all the other weird Mario games, like Mario Tennis and stuff like that. And
Mario Tennis, I don't think came on the Super Nintendo. That was N64.
Okay, well, you had like Mario Kart and things like that, and the thing about Mario is we almost didn't have him as Nintendo's official like premier mascot.
Really?
Yeah. I believe what it was Nintendo wanted Popeye, but they couldn't get the license.
I think that they had the license. I think that's not quite how
I believe that's what they wanted. I think they wanted Popeye. I believe it. I remember hearing something somewhere. But
yeah. But anyway, so I think we've talked about Zelda because there's only really like one Zelda game on there, and it's really freaking good. It's a really freaking good game. But the thing you got to realize about the Zelda series is it was kind of in a bit of a crossroads at that time because you had Zelda 1 and then you had Zelda 2, which completely changed the formula, and this was the third game. So this solidified the Zelda formula. Without this game, who knows where Zelda would be now?
Yeah, well, and then like they had the Game Boy game Link's Awakening, which did not actually get approved. It was actually a fan not fan made game, but it was a game that was made by the developers in their off time. It was something they all worked on when they were working on what they were supposed to be working on.
Yeah, it was originally they were trying to port A Link to the Past to the Game Boy, which is why the game feels somewhat Link to the Past-y.
Yeah. And it wasn't until they had something more solid that they went to Miyamoto with it. Miyamoto was just like, he pretty much washed his hands of it. He didn't really want anything to do with it.
But they recognize like having a Zelda game on the Game Boy is a really good idea.
Yeah. So he let him do it, but he just was like, but I'm not putting anything towards it. So that's why Link to the Past is kind of like feels weird in a way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's that link to Ocarina of Time also, and
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I think a lot of the stuff they implemented on that led to like Ocarina of Time. Mm-hmm. But speaking of Game Boy games, something else which was awesome with the Super Nintendo was you had an adapter called the Super Game Boy. That is
actually one of the topics, so thank you.
Yeah. The Super Game Boy, which I actually have myself. It was a device that looked like a giant cart, and it had a smaller hole in it, and you could it had like a little game slot in there for your your Game Boy games, and you could basically play your Game Boy games on your Super Nintendo. So, you know, so there was a way to play, you know, Pokemon Red and Blue on your
Fun
TV.
fact: the Super Game Boy actually had the Game Boy hardware in the cart.
Yeah.
So, like, the Super Nintendo is actually doing very little itself.
Yeah. It's just more of a pass through than anything to the TV.
I mean, it does a few things, like some graphical stuff, like the background.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But like,
yeah, but for the most part, the Super Nintendo, there's the Super Game Boy is doing all the heavy lifting, really.
yeah, and it did, like you got some colorizations for games. I think there's like the Space Invaders game. It actually had an entire Super Nintendo game on the cartridge, to where if you put it in the Super Game Boy, it just looked like a Super Nintendo game, kind of.
Yeah, and you know, that was really cool. So that was kind of like a early example of backwards compatibility, or not really backwards compatibility, but I guess, I don't know, parallel but compatibility. I want to say that. So yeah, you basically, so if you had a Super Game Boy, you had access to the entire Game Boy library also, or Game Boy games. So that's pretty cool. So you had basically two systems in one. If you were lucky enough to own that device.
Yeah, like I do remember a lot of my friends, like we did play Pokemon on the Super Game Boy, like in the late 90s. I do remember those. Like I knew a lot of people who did that.
Yeah.
Like you could technically play Pokemon Silver on that thing, but it wouldn't display in color.
Yeah.
But yeah, like honestly, that's for a future Game Boy episode when we do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So here's a thing that I think we should kind of talk about. And this is like where like our differences in how we play games will come in. What do you think is the best way to play the Super Nintendo today?
Well, for me, the to me, like, if the best way to play Super Nintendo is, obviously I like old hardware. That's my whole thing. Mm-hmm. But if I'm gonna say the best way to play Super Nintendo games right now, I would say the easiest way to do it right now today is probably if you already have a Switch. And you get that, you know, and you have and you get the Super Nintendo games that come with your online subscription. Mm-hmm. I was actually playing that earlier. I was going through there and seeing what games they had recently, and what games they have on there now. And there's actually a very wide range of not just North American releases, but there's also quite a bit of Japanese games in there too, if you want to play those.
Yeah, that's one thing I give Nintendo a lot of credit for is the $20 Switch Online is pretty well worth it in my opinion, and I could make an argument for the $50 R1, but like that's more of like a subjective argument.
Yeah, but the so like, you know, you're paying $20 a month for the online that you're going to be doing anyways. And then you get access to, like, you know, free access to a good chunk of the library. They just, like, recently they added Battletoads and Double Dragon.
They added it for the Wii Switch Online.
For the Super Nintendo on the Switch.
But not Battletoads for the Wii.
Not Battletoads for the Wii, but it was
because I called GameStop earlier. And they told me to F off, it would be there tomorrow.
Oh, okay. But no, they got Battletoads, Double Dragon, that game. They got that game on there recently. Let's see what else they got on there. They've got Killer Instinct on there. They've got all 3 Donkey Kong Country games on there. They've got Super Mario World, Legend of Zelda. Basically, a lot of the games we've already mentioned are already there. So there's a wide range of games that you can play. So if you just want to get yourself a dip in your toes to the library of the Super Nintendo, that's a good way to play it. But then again, if you really want the authentic experience, then go down to your local, flea market and try to find yourself or go on eBay and try to find yourself a Super Nintendo. And there's many ways to, play it today. You can, find yourself a CRT. You want to do it that way. For me, I have mine modded, so I can play on
Is it
modern
easy to
TV.
mod? Is it easy to mod?
It's very easy to mod. If you want the RGB triple bypass, it's very, very easy to mod. It's super, super easy to mod.
I know in the
it.
2010s when I had my Super Nintendo, the way I played it is it was a CRT and I played it through S-Video.
Yeah. So if you want to, you can play it through S-Video too. Yeah, it's really good on that.
No mods required. Just get a cable.
Yeah. If you have an upscaler, you can play without mods. If you have an upscaler and a good set of cables like from HD Retrovision, they've got component cables for the Super Nintendo, and you have an upscaler that can handle it. It'll look good on that even without the bypass mod. The bypass mod just makes them more crisp, makes the sound better. But
I
you
will
can
say,
still play it that way.
upscalers are expensive, so expect to pay a lot of money for those.
Depends on what you get. Like for instance,
RetroTink, OSS, or whatever.
Oh my God, RetroTink. Oh yeah.
But you want to pay $4,000 for those kind of things?
Oh my God, the FrameMeister. I've heard people say
that's the Cadillac of upscalers right there. That's
I've heard people casually mention that, like if you want to play these, then get yourself an upscaler like the FrameMeister. And I'm like, oh really? So that's like saying, hey, if you want to travel, you should get yourself something like a rocket ship. It's like, yeah.
Oh
yeah.
You want a grocery getter? Here, get a Porsche Carrera GT.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. It's just like, okay, yeah. FrameMeister's like $600-$800.
They're good.
Oh, they're worth every fucking penny. But my God, it's like, yeah, it's like you said, it's the Cadillac of upscalers. It's the prim of the prim. How much is it? How much is that? I can't see it.
$658.
$600. They must have come down. I remember back when they were $800. Yeah, that's come down, but still, that's still a lot, But there's actually, if you're handy with a soldering iron, there's actually ways to build your own upscaler, for like $20 in parts.
And I will say, from my end, the Super Nintendo is insanely easy to emulate. So you could use console, different old consoles if you can hot mod those. Chinese handhelds, your cell phone, your laptop, literally anything. For example, my PSP can do Super Nintendo, and that's literally a 20-year-old piece of hardware right there.
But I was gonna say, if you are hard up for cash and you do want to upscaler without breaking the bank, you can get something like a what are they called? Oh my God. What's the name of the console that could play Nintendo games, Super Nintendo games?
The Retron 5.
Retron 5. Yeah, whatever company made Retron 5, they make upscaling cables for $20-$30.
There is stuff like the Mister. Have you ever I'm sure you've heard of that?
Yeah, the Mister too. Yeah. But so there are cheaper options, but then again, you have to understand, you are getting what you pay for. So,
and also, with a lot of these DIY options, technical knowledge helps a lot. For example, you could go like a Raspberry Pi kind of thing. That requires knowledge of setup or modding the consoles, emulation. Knowing how to manage stuff. I would say for emulation, just like managing emulators itself, on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as computer knowledge, I would say it requires like a 4. A 4 on the scale is like a computer scale. Nothing too difficult, but it's not like it's not like kind of thing. You got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, but if you're someone who really you're interested in like older consoles and you're interested in like playing the Super Nintendo, I think I speak both for us when we say like the Super Nintendo, you can't go wrong with it. It's a great console, very interesting library of games to play.
Like I would say, if you could only have if you could only have one console, Super Nintendo would not be a bad choice.
No, it would not be a bad choice at all.
We can debate which one's the best one, but Super Nintendo is not a bad choice. Like that is not a wrong answer in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's something for everybody on that console. Like there's something for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And another thing I didn't have this on the list, but we can kind of talk about this real quick is homebrew releases, like the indie releases, like people are still making Super Nintendo games and releasing them on cartridges to this very day.
Oh yeah, definitely. And there are companies like Retrobit that are re-releasing older games too. I'm not mentioning another company because I hate them, but yeah, but that's why I'm mentioning a company like Retrobit, who's a little bit more reputable. But
the company that must not be named.
Yeah, the company.
I'd sooner say Voldemort than their name.
Yeah. I'm very limited in what I can say about their name, but
yes, you're very limited. You want to run from this company and their games.
Yeah. But yeah, you got companies like that do re-releases. Retrobit is really good. I've never gotten anything wrong with them. They do release some pretty good older games too. Like I have the Valis collection for the Sega Genesis on there, but what's cool is they actually have they don't have the cartridges on original Sega Genesis cartridges. They're actually like transparent green and purple and blue. It's like it looks really cool. Yeah.
So I do want to what we're talking about, like best ways to play. One thing that does bear mention is EverDrive. So
yep, that's definitely a way.
It's definitely a way. May not be your way, but it's definitely a way that bears mentioning. So an EverDrive is basically a flash card, and they got it for like most major consoles, and so it's a great way to play games natively on the console. But one of the big advantages is, let's say, a fan translation. Like Secret of Mana 2. Like you can play it in English on your console. I think the Retron 5 actually has support for that. Like it can because the Retron 5 just dumps the ROM and plays it on emulation. But just like an EverDrive, you can also ROM hacks, playing ROM hacks directly on your console. It's just kind of cool. And another thing is reproduction cards. You can get a reproduction card of fan translations. I will personally say, I personally am not a fan of here's this game that came in America, here's a reproduction card of it, but it's retranslated, or just straight out like, oh, here's rare game. Like reproduction cards. They're bootlegs. Like you can buy bootlegs of like I've seen game stores. To their credit, they do label them as reproduction cards. For like $20. Like, so that's fair. Like I'll give them some credit. They're not trying to pass it off. But I do not approve of those kind of things. They're bootlegs. It's whatever, I don't like it.
I prefer if it's a reproduction card, it actually has some kind of stamp on it or some way to like let you know that it is. Like, for instance, a company called RetroGameCases.com. They make they make reproduction game cases for DS games, Game Boy games. They make them for they make them for like all kinds of different games. But the thing is, the plastic on the inside actually has cut out where it says retrogamecases.com. So there's no way you can pass this off as like authentic, and that's something I like.
Or like I know Retrobit. This might just be for legal reasons, but where the Nintendo logo is, it's the Retrobit logo, but it's like an NES style kind of thing.
Yeah, that way it's basically if you're doing a retro release or a reproduction, have some like
have a different color cartridge, like have a Super Nintendo cartridge that's black. Like for example,
some way.
If you see a Chrono Trigger with like a black cartridge, just looking at it, it could be a fuzzy ass picture that has like 3 pixels, but you see that black cartridge. Wait, Chrono Trigger that doesn't have a black cartridge. That's reproduction, kind of thing.
Yeah. Some way to tell it's a reproduction, whether it's stamped on there or something. Yeah. Because there are
so bad in the community that when people sell these high-end games, you have to have board pictures. Like people have to like show the boards. Show like, hey, this isn't fake or whatever.
That's why a lot of times, when you're doing, you'll see this on like eBay where people are selling like, for instance, like cartridges and stuff. They'll actually have it opened up so you can see the board. So you can see it's an authentic board, because there are scumbags out there who will try to like, make a reproduction game and sell it as authentic, and that is just scummy behavior.
Also, for the record, if you buy a reproduction cart, like for example, Emerald is $180. If you buy a reproduction Emerald for $20 because you don't want to pay those dormant prices, I am not going to judge you. I am not going to freaking judge you. It's not something I would do, but I throw no shade at you. Like Emerald is like way too ridiculous of a price, and if you just want to play the game, and you pay like $20 for a cartridge, knowing it's a reproduction, honestly, I don't blame you. I like that's your choice, and I respect it.
I mean, I do that with Sega CD games. I buy reproductions of them so I can play them on my Sega CD. But they are 20.
I would buy a reproduction Snatcher.
I've got a Snatcher reproduction. It's got a somewhat nice looking reproduction case on it. It's more like a DVD case, but it
probably even improved.
Yeah. But
also, real quick, RJ, yo,
what's up, RJ? But yeah, so like I buy reproduction Sega CD games because those games are effing expensive, but I want to play them on original hardware. So hey, I buy a nice reproduction for $20. That's not bad. But if you're paying like anything more, it's stupid. Yeah, you should not be paying big bucks for reproductions. It's ridiculous.
That's kind of the difference between me and you, Cassie. Like I went the emulation route, you went the physical route. Neither of us are wrong with what I choose, because so for me, I have no need to buy like the reproduction stuff because I do emulation. Like that's the route that I chose. But you are physical media, so like that's why you do. Neither of us are wrong, honestly.
Yeah. So there's plenty, and that's the thing is like I'm a original hardware, original software guy, but I do recognize when there's a time for when you need to play emulation, because Snatcher at $4,000 is ridiculous.
I literally can't afford to be physical media. I can't afford it. I can't.
Yeah, exactly. And that's and that's why when you said to me, what's the easiest way to play it modernly, I did not go with the whole RGB mod and stuff like that, because that's got to go with, because that takes technical stuff. The easiest way for me to see is either emulation or, again, if you want to do it, all square.
Switch is literally the easiest way.
The Switch. Yeah, you just literally turn your Switch on. Boom, there you go.
Or dare I say, track down a Super Nintendo like Mini, because those are still like pretty affordable. Like on the used market, you can get one for like less than $100, I think.
Yeah, I have the Super Nintendo Mini, and it's it's basically got, again, it's got the pretty much a good size taste of what's on the console. I think it's represented very well. It's got all the big. It's got all the big names on there. It's got a couple games I wouldn't have on there personally, but for the most part, it's a really decent selection of games.
Yeah, like I just kind of like did a quick search on eBay, and I'm just gonna zoom in, and this is not honestly like it's like 70-80 bucks for this that's not a bad deal, honestly.
Yeah, that's how much actually. That's how much it was at retail. So, yeah.
Yeah, but for like the sheer number of like honestly, the fact that it has Earthbound alone makes it worth it.
Oh yeah.
Like 70-80 bucks for this that's reasonable. That is reasonable, honestly.
And it has Star Fox 2 on it.
Yeah. So this is a good way. Like here, you're getting it in the box for like 70, like basically 80 bucks.
Yeah. And it is possible to mod it with more games on it.
Yeah. That a lot of those mini consoles, you can mod. I'm still kicking myself that I didn't get a PlayStation Mini when they were like 20 bucks. I'm still kicking myself I didn't get a PlayStation TV when they were 20 bucks. They're like really expensive now. PlayStation TV is a Vita consoleized, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was like a consoleized Vita. It was like a set-top box, and it didn't sell that well. But for like, I remember in like the mid to late 2010s, like 2015 to like 2017, I was regularly seeing it at my game store for 20 bucks, and I didn't buy it. I know the PlayStation Mini at one point retail was $20, but they're like 150 now. So
kind of sidetracking, because you made me think about it. Like, I don't really know why. I have no reason to. I have no explanation why, but I really did not get into the PlayStation handhelds, and I don't know why, because that seems like that'd been really cool. But for some reason, I never did get into a PSP, PS Vita, and all that stuff.
I got into the PSP pretty hard. I wanted one. It was one of those things like I wanted it so bad. I didn't get mine till about 2007, 2008. So it's still somewhat relevant at the time. But oh god, I love that console. I still have not my original PSP, but like the one I've had for forever. I love that console. I never got a Vita because like I got a 3DS at the time. I know like Vita fanboys are very passionate about it, but I have no love for the Vita. Like I recognize people love their Vitas, but like the PSP is where I have my love. Like I love that system very dearly. Like it's like it's like one of my favorite consoles of all time, honestly.
Yeah. All right. So what else we got?
So we were talking earlier about like enhancement chips for the Super Nintendo, and I thought we'd kind of like kind of touch upon that. You had stuff like the Super Effects chip. Look, there's even like a lot of other different chips, like a math coprocessor. There's a bunch of other ones. Really.
Yeah.
But the Super Effects chips really breathed a whole new life into the system.
Yeah, because it was like you know, there were some games where you're like, "Whoa, I didn't know the Super Nintendo could do that." And it's like, well, no, it can't do that. It can only do that with this game because this game actually has a chip in it. But yeah, that I do like that extra level of care where it's like there's certain things they wanted their game to do, and they made sure to put a chip in the board so that it could do that. You know,
like you had actual 3D with Star Fox. Like it looks like playing Star Fox. Like it works in the same way like where you watch a movie from the 30s that's in black and white, where it's like you recognize like it might not look the best, but you get the care and attention, or like you watch a schlocky movie from the 80s where it's like the effects look terrible, but you recognize the passion and you
it. Oh yeah, definitely.
Like
you can definitely tell the love that was made behind it. Yeah,
like Hitchcock's The Birds, that was state of the art special effects at the time. You know, like rear projection, like stuff, but like it looks terrible now. Yeah. Or South by Southwest. I'm just naming Hitchcock films. where you have him being chased by the plane. That was state of the art at the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing is Star Fox at one time was state of the art. Now it's completely outdated and quaint, But at the time, you could tell it was made with love and passion, and that was like a very top tier game in the systems library.
I mean, the gameplay still holds up. Like as a game, it's still.
It's still a great game. Yeah, still a great game to play.
Yeah, like Sega tried to do like a Super Effects kind of thing with Virtual Racing, but I think the Virtual Racing cart cost like $80 or something. Like it was like some outrageous price. And it didn't sell that well. But like if you look at Virtual Racing on the Genesis, it actually it's kind of a miracle. It looks like good.
Yeah. But the thing with Genesis though, it had amazing sprite scaling, which kind of gave that pseudo 3D look to it.
That was a lot of that was the Sega CD, because the Sega CD had the sprite scaling hardware in it.
I understand that, but so did the Genesis, because that's why you got games like Space Harrier and Afterburner that had that kind of pseudo 3D effect.
I look at Batman on the Sega CD, like the sprite scaling of that game. Honestly, that gives the Super Nintendo run for money, but the fact that it had to have a whole nother console, like, see what they have to do to mimic a fraction of our power.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, there's a lot of amazing games on the Sega CD that you were like, wow, this looks almost better than the Super Nintendo. But then you had to realize, they had to add something else to it to get that. Yeah, whereas like you totally get that all. Yeah,
sorry, I'm totally gonna make it later.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing is like all that's included already in the Super Nintendo. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I wish more Sega CD games would take advantage of the sprite scaling, because it looked really good. Like Batman looks good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, Afterburner on the Sega CD, it looks pretty damn good. But like, yeah, again, it was just like what the Super Nintendo could do on its own. Sega needed to have an add-on to do it. But it was amazing what you could get away with the special mod chips and stuff that people would put in their their games and stuff.
Yeah, like one game that like honestly is really astounding is Doom. That used the Super Effects 2 chip. I think that's like I only think a couple of games used it. Star Fox 2 was actually going to use it. That's why if you make a reproduction card of Star Fox 2, you have to use the Doom card.
Okay.
Yeah. But like Doom on the Super Nintendo was something special, because you gotta realize this is not too long after Doom came out, and it was PC only. So to have Doom on a console, and yes, it didn't run as well, but it ran well enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as far as like consoles go, I think pretty much the 32X was the best one of them all. But again, you had to have a add-on for that. But but as far as like bringing it down to a console, that seemed to be like a thing of like who can perfect Doom the best.
Yeah, that's always like I love watching those videos where they compare Doom ports, because it's had like a lot of different ports. Like for example, the like Doom on the GBA surprisingly runs really well. Like it actually runs really well on the GBA. And like all of like the N64 era ports, the difference between them, it's really interesting.
And that leads to the meme of can it run Doom?
And yes, the Super Nintendo can run Doom.
And what's also funny is that also led to a modern one, which is can it run Skyrim?
or can it run Crysis?
Yeah.
But I think can it run Skyrim is going to be the next can it run Doom.
Yeah, because like again, it was like kind of like Skyrim back in the day, where it was like it was on every console, it was on everything. Yeah. It's like, oh, guess what? We finally got Doom, and it's like, okay, great, woohoo! You know.
Well, Doom on the Super Nintendo was kind of a big deal. Like, but
oh yeah,
by the time we got to the PlayStation, like every console had their version.
Yeah.
And that was at the time where it's like, oh, you have Doom, we have Quake.
Yeah, and then like the Jaguar even had like a copy of Doom, I believe.
Yeah, and the Jaguar version was actually really good. In fact, a lot of the ports in that era were based off the Jaguar version.
Oh, really? Did I know that?
Yeah, the history of like Doom is fascinating, honestly.
Yeah, well, we have our own on-site guy for that too.
Yes. That's Lugs Zerg, which I'm sure us saying this, he's like, did somebody say Doom? Did somebody say Doom?
Yeah.
I guarantee.
Who's talking about Doom? What?
I swear, if Lug appears in the comments, I am going to freak.
Yeah, Lug is at like McDonald's ordering a sandwich and just turns around, looks at the sky. Someone's talking about Doom on a podcast.
he is being summoned.
Yeah.
Like, so when we did our Doom episode, I had to have Lug on here. That was the requirement.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, there weren't that many first-person shooters on the Super Nintendo. Like, I think I got Wolfenstein 3D. That alone was a pretty decent port, if I remember correctly. Super Noah's Ark, if you want to go unlicensed.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it was due to the fact that like the first-person shooter genre was so new at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another like miracle thing was basically Killer Instinct, which only really wouldn't have been possible without Donkey Kong. Like, we got to talk about Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Because like the thing about the Super Nintendo is, we summoned our Reaper King.
Hey.
Like,
the thing about Donkey Kong Country is that it outsold the Sega 32X.
A game outsold a console.
Yeah, it outsold. Yeah, the Donkey Kong Country outsold the 32X like on that Christmas season. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Donkey Kong Country is you got to remember the time it came out. It's like '94. It's like the PlayStation was starting to come around.
Yeah.
Saturn. You had the Ultra 64, which was starting to be like talked about. So the Donkey Kong Country proved the Super Nintendo had some life in it, but it just did like very basic tricks. Like they did a 3D model and they turned it into a sprite, which it seems basic now, but like.
But then it was good. It almost looked like claymation in a way, but you know.
Oh yeah, and then they actually did claymation because the thing you got to realize is Donkey Kong Country kind of was doing the same thing Mortal Kombat was doing, just a lot better.
Yeah. They had a digitized sprite, but it was just of a 3D model. Yeah.
Yeah. Donkey Kong looks really good. The gameplay it's good, but it's basic.
Yeah.
Oh, this is we're playing Doom Eternal until I get soft lock. We were just talking about Doom. So we summoned Black Reaper Caster. We summoned him. I was
stuck. Sucks I came here. Oh, I'm glad you're number 2.
Yes. Oh God.
Well, being someone's backup. No. We're happy you're here.
We're the side piece.
Yeah.
So Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and then 3 is actually not bad, but you can just tell it was made by a B team.
Well, also Donkey Kong Country kind of like pretty much like solidified, the Donkey Kong mythos, I guess you could say, of how Donkey Kong is presented. Because from that point on, he's always got the tie with the DK on it,
And what's funny is they use the rare design from then, literally up until this year.
Yeah.
Like the rare design, like the rare character design for DK, it lasted literally 20 years. Like 20 years they used it up until like just now for like the new Mario Kart and the new Donkey Kong. They're just now going away from that design. I think it's like wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the Super Nintendo is definitely where Rare came into its own because Rare Rare did a lot of stuff for the Nintendo. Was really with Donkey Kong Country where it's like, hey, we've arrived.
And they had their own version of their own exclusive version of Mortal Kombat, which they had Mortal Kombat on there, but they had Killer Instinct, which was like a very popular game.
So fun fact about Killer Instinct on the Super Nintendo is, like I don't know if you saw like the splash screen coming soon for the Nintendo Ultra 64. Killer Instinct was supposed to be like a big key marquee game for the Nintendo 64, but because the Nintendo 64 took so long, they eventually ported it to the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
They actually did a pretty good job. Like I remember playing Killer Instinct back in the day. That was really fun. Like I've owned Killer Instinct Gold, which is like kind of like Killer Instinct 2.
Yeah.
I wasn't that really big fan of it. Like the N64 controller is not that good for fighting games.
Yeah.
Like it's not really good for fighting games, in my opinion.
And I always loved the Killer Cuts CD that you can get.
Oh yeah, I had that CD and like the Killer Instinct intro is like, oh my god, it has like the perfect build up. Like honestly, if I was a wrestler, that would be my entrance song.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love like the sound design, like Ultra Combo Breaker.
Combo Breaker.
Oh god.
Ultra Combo. Yeah, it's just like the announcer going nuts.
I once saw this video of like a guy who installed like some subwoofers in his Killer Instinct cabinet, and he had even had an equalizer thing in it just for like the great sound. And I'm like, it's actually not a bad idea.
That's awesome.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, the Killer Instinct announcer is one of my favorite announcers in a game, next to Halo.
For me, one of my favorites has got to be probably Unreal Tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I love a lot of it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I really wish Unreal Tournament would have come back. Like they were going to they were starting to work on it, but then a game called Fortnite came out.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that Unreal Tournament kind of died by the wayside, but their engine still lives. Everybody uses Unreal Engine.
For better or for worse.
For better or worse, yeah. But like, if so many games, you start on, it's like Unreal, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I will say I wish we could go back to the 2010s where every company had their own proprietary engine. EA had Frostbite. And the thing is, I feel like games ran a lot better, and because if you look at Frostbite, oh my god, that you look at Battlefield 1, some of those Battlefield or even the Battlefront games, they still look amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, look at Battlefield on the PS3.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the only thing I got left is RPGs, but I feel like we've kind of talked about that. Anything you want to expand upon it?
The RPGs for the Super Nintendo are just absolutely amazing. Like I said before, they kind of I think the Super Nintendo and its RPG, more importantly, its JRPG
yes
lineup. I think it introduced it more to the. I think it was more instrumental market or bringing it to the mainstream than any other console before it. Like I said before, other consoles. There's always been RPGs on consoles.
Yeah.
There's been JRPGs on consoles, but the Super Nintendo is the one that actually really brought it to the forefront and brought a wide plethora of them.
I would definitely say it broke the door. Like I say, the Super Nintendo walked to Final Fantasy 7 could run.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, this is where I think, like, Squaresoft was really getting its stride. We're starting to pick up, and then it was just from there go onto the PlayStation and boom, 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 boom. Say what you want about Square nowadays. I think they're not as great as they used to be, but
yeah,
they're definitely not as great as they used to be. They're not. Back in the day, Squaresoft used to be a name that people would always talk about when they talk about games. It always comes up. It always came up a lot. And then when they formed with Enix, people still talked about Square Enix. Nowadays, it's just like, you hear about Square Enix, it's like.
I think really the downfall is when Square bought Eidos. Because Eidos was like the Tomb Raider, the Gex, the Deus Ex, because they were like a Western company. When Square bought Eidos, and it's like when Lara Croft was a Square Enix character, essentially for a while there. I think that was really when they started the downfall, when they were starting to publish other games, like in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Square was trying to be like the Ubisoft, the EA of Japan, kind of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were kind of like, they were trying. I don't think they were trying as hard as they could be. It was almost kind of like how Konami is. Konami really doesn't put a whole lot of effort into games anymore.
Konami threw in the towel in the mid 2010s after Metal Gear because they were making so much money on the pachinko machines, and they're starting to come back. But only because, we want the easy wins. Oh, somebody's wanting to pay us to do a remake of one of our games, and we don't have to do jack shit. We just have to collect the paycheck. We get all the glory, and we get the money. Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, as I'm saying, yeah. Konami's more interested in making gambling machines, than they're actually making actual real games. And I understand if the money's there, I understand, but still, it's kind of sad to see such a great company. Yeah, it's a shame to see a great company just go down that route. But like Square Enix used to be just a big name in gaming. That every year it was like, what's Square Enix going to bring out this year, or what are they working on? Now no one really gives a crap. It's like, oh, another Final Fantasy? Ah, cool, throw it on the pile.
Yeah. Like it used to be like, oh my God, they're remaking Final Fantasy VII. Oh, Final Fantasy Rebirth. Well, okay.
Yeah, remember when Final Fantasy would come out and everything would stop? Like I missed it. Like I don't even know what's the current Final Fantasy. What 16?
See, the thing for me is I remember that E3, like that one Sony press conference, where they announced Final Fantasy VII and Shenmue 3. Like, oh my God. Like, because we've been asking for a Final Fantasy remake for so long. And then Shenmue 3, that was like the thing we never thought we would get. And like Final Fantasy remake came out and it was okay. And then Shenmue, I think, was kind of a bit of a disappointment, but I'm not a Shenmue fan, so I can't really say for certain. I'm just going off consensus.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just miss the days when a Final Fantasy game would get announced and everybody would just lose their flipping minds.
Sorry, I gotta respond to this text real quick.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I am glad that we can go back and play these old games. They're not lost or anything like that, and honestly, I there's a whole generation of people right now who are actually, who are discovering these new games, or these older games.
A lot of Gen Z and Gen Alpha are, like I've seen some of the news reports.
Yeah, they're going back and playing a lot of these games, and there's a lot of people our age, with families and such who are like, introducing their children to the games they like playing as kids,
Mhm.
And not just that, but also like, cartoons and stuff that we watched, introducing the younger generation to what you enjoyed. And that's something that we were
I want to
done.
make I want it so that like the 3-year-olds get DuckTales stuck in their head.
Yeah, and that's something that like that happened to us when we were children. Our parents showed us media that they enjoyed, and as we watched the stuff that they watched.
Yeah,
So
my
it's
dad
it's
did. My dad showed me a lot of old black and white films.
yeah. So it's like we're enjoying previous. I think you need to do that.
Oh, you muted yourself there for a second, sir. I can't hear you, Caster.
I know I had to answer somebody real quick. But anyways,
okay.
yeah, somebody calling my name. Anyways, it's just nice showing the younger generation. I think it's what every new generation needs to do is show the new generation what you grew up on and show what you loved and open them up to new things so that they themselves can make their own thing, and so forth and so forth. As it's been going on, that's been going on since the dawn of time, really.
Yeah, but I will say, I think the 80s have stuck around a little bit too long.
Yeah.
Like, I do like the 80s aesthetic, but I'm kind of also at the same time getting tired of it and everything.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, enjoy the games, but not just the 80s. I'm talking about older games, like even like PlayStation games, stuff like that. You can go back and enjoy. N64 games, GameCube games. That's a big thing too. Younger people now are enjoying GameCube games for the first time.
I mean, people are starting to get nostalgic for the Xbox 360 and PS3, which is weird.
Which is weird for me, yeah, because I feel like I just woke up and I just was playing Gears 3. So,
see, what's really weird is the PS3 came out, 2006?
2005, 2006, around that era, yeah.
Okay, so I graduated high school in 2006. So I was already outside of high school when the PS3 came out.
Yeah.
So, like, people who are nostalgic for it, it's just really, really weird.
Yeah, that's for me. It's kind of weird, but then you got to think about it. People who were born at that time are already adults with their own kids now.
Yeah, or it's like a show you watched. It's like, oh, I remember watching that when I was 4 years old. It's like, that show came out when I was in college.
Yeah, how do you think I feel when everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I remember seeing that. I love that as a kid." And I'm like, I was graduating high school when that came out. Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting up there. That is for sure. But yeah, I think the Super Nintendo is probably one of the better consoles to go back to because like the graphics hold up. Like the NES, the gameplay of the NES holds up, but the graphics are an acquired taste. Like the NES graphics are passable, but they do it's like, yes, this is an old console. With Super Nintendo, the graphics still like give modern pixel graphics a run for the money.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the PlayStation. I love the PlayStation. That is like my favorite console ever. Like number one.
Same here.
I can admit the graphics suck on the PlayStation. Like the 3D graphics, like you play Final Fantasy 7. The graphics are terrible.
Yeah.
Like the gameplay still holds up on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, like the NES and the PlayStation are similar in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I would, with no bias, I will say the graphics suck on the PlayStation. They are so yeah, I think it's time to wrap up here. So on Tuesday, I'll be doing my viewer request. But we'll play some Mass Effect 2 to start off with. That'll be pretty sweet. And then on on Friday, we got the Friday Night Frenzy. That's going to be a really fun one. I have it set, but I forgot what I did. But Saturday, Cyberpunk, and the next week, we'll be talking about Pokemon, and Bunny Girl and Nix will be here. It'll be pretty fun. So, Caster, anything you want to say?
No, I think we pretty much said everything we need to say. Yeah.
All right, so let's just kind of end this a few minutes early. So,
All right.
Thank you
Thanks,
everyone for
everybody.
joining us. I really appreciate it. This has been Nick from the Phoenix Press. Remember, I can let you a door. You don't let's walk through it. Go play some Super Nintendo.